to Off the Record News. I'm your host, Diana Longrie. Thank you for tuning in. This program is brought to you live from the SCC studios out of White Bear Lake. And through a cooperative agreement, this program also simultaneously broadcasts live to those studios out of the Roseville viewing area, the CTV studios. As a result of this cooperative effort, this program reaches out to and serves approximately 28 communities in the Northeast metropolitan area. And of course tonight it's a live program, so if you're watching this on October 19th, 2011, we invite you to call in with any questions or comments that you may have either for myself or my guests this evening. And of course we do rebroadcast this program at other dates and times, so if you're watching on a date other than the live broadcast, well, unfortunately, you won't be able to call in because we won't be here, but I encourage you to get a hold of me on Facebook. You can find me there. I'm also in the phone book, no unlisted phone numbers here, and I'd love to hear from you. That is how we discover some of the show topics that we have on this program, is simply because our viewers say, you know what, I've got a good idea. I think Diana should talk about this on her TV program. So we invite you to bring those ideas on over here to the table. Now, we also have our time slots in St. Paul Monday evenings at 8 o'clock. So once this gets to St. Paul and it plays in St. Paul, I welcome my St. Paul viewers. And for those of you who watch out of this town square viewing area in Inver Grove Heights, Mendota Heights, West St. Paul, South St. Paul, well, I welcome you on Thursday nights at 7. Now, I think you're going to really enjoy our program this evening. You hear a lot in the news about the youth today. How do we get them engaged? How do we serve their needs? And with budgets tight in local municipal government, there's just so much that local governments can do, and yet we're all wondering, what can we do? Well, I have found a group of people here that they have taken this into their own hands, and as citizens and organizations within the community, they are addressing this idea, this issue on the east side of St. Paul. And they're here to share some of their insights and their solution-based ideas with you tonight. So with that, I want to welcome all of my guests. We have quite a studio full of people, so that's how exciting this is, because everybody wants to get involved. We actually had to draw straws to figure out who was going to be here tonight in front of the camera. So anyway, so thank you folks for all being here.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yes. And so maybe what we can do to start with is, go around the table and introduce yourself to the viewers. Let them know a little bit about who you are and how you kind of came into being a part of this solution. I'll start with you first, Elfrida.
Yes, my name is Elfrida Flowers. I am the executive director and founder of Family Values for Life, which is a faith-based organization on the east side of St. Paul. Our mission is to connect families on the east side of St. Paul with resources to help with leveraging resources amongst other organizations. This organization began in April of last year. And so we met up with Cian, who is with EESNDC, and then we began to put our ideas together and talk about, because with the existing program, Wilder Wednesday, gave us the opportunity to talk about how we could expand and look at hours and programming at Wilder Rec Center.
Yes, exactly. And Sienna, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Cian, and I'm with the Eastside Neighborhood Development Company. And we were out door knocking this summer around the Wilder Recreation Center, and we were offering a home improvement loan program through the Dayton's Bluff Neighborhood Housing Services, targeted specifically for our area. And what I found as I was out door knocking with our outreach folks, I found that there was a theme throughout the community, and that theme was centered around youth. People wanted to know what resources there were for youth. They said they were afraid to go outside into their community, specifically around the Wilder Recreation Center, and they wondered why there was no programming there available for the youth. And having heard that so many times as we were out door knocking, and I think we knocked on 330 some odd doors in the community this summer, and that was a concurrent theme throughout.
Wow.
And that made me think, well, what can we do about this issue? There's so many people out here in the community that have this issue. What can ESNDC do to bring the community together around this issue? And so I invited folks to come and sit down and have a conversation about it, to see and explore how we could get some leverage in our community, because I knew that Milo Cutter, the executive director of City Academy, which is the only thing located in the Wilder Recreation Center right now, I knew that Milo wanted to support greater utility of that building.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
And you know, one of the things I think is an important topic that we're going to really cover in depth with this program is talking about the community rec centers and the role that they play, vital role that they play within the neighborhoods and the communities. So, and also, you know, and you could talk a little later too about your role, your organization's role as this facilitator, basically with the various different stakeholders in this process, which I found when I first attended a few of the meetings, I found very fascinating that there were stakeholders from so many different parts of the community, and yet they were all sitting at the same table and working for the same common goals. So it was very good. So we'll talk more about that, but I know that Jennifer has a few things she'd like to say.
I'm Jennifer Porwit. I am a volunteer master gardener with the University Extension. I come from a little bit more general viewpoint. I'm interested in programming for all of the small rec centers on the east side of St. Paul, Wilder being one of them, Duluth and Case, and so on. All these small rec centers are in danger of being closed, and I would like to see the model that we're using in the small rec centers to go back to the model that it was a couple generations ago, where citizen volunteers are more active in generating and seeing through the programming that is being held at the rec centers.
Right, yeah, exactly. And then Brittany, please introduce yourself to the viewers as well.
I am Brittany Brown, and I am a senior at the University of Minnesota this year. My major is sociology of law, criminology, and deviance. And with that, I think I want to be probably a juvenile lawyer, which thus my interest in youth. And I did door knocking with CN, and now I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you certainly bring to the table is that you live in this neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that you have grown up in, that you really have your heart in that neighborhood, because it's your backyard, isn't it?
This is true, this is true. I played basketball at Wilder Recreation Center for a few years. I went to Bruce Vento, and I've worked on the east side and been on the east side since the late 90s.
Yeah. And certainly I think in the couple of times that I've gone to some of the meetings, one thing that really has struck me is this commitment to wanting to bring back vitality to the east side of St. Paul once more, and that it really has several different aspects in it. It's not just one solution. It's really very holistic, and you folks are looking at it from the perspective of how can we engage our youth. And there's obviously other folks that are working on how are we going to bring jobs to the community. Yes. But first, you have to have your youth engaged, that they have to have a, they have to have a compass where they feel inside that they have their self-esteem, that they have the tools in order to be able to understand how to go into life, have those life skills, and feel trusting of other people. And those are some of the issues that you folks are working on. Yes. But I found so fascinating, because that's really a lot to chew off. So, Elfreda, why don't you talk a little bit about your organization and really kind of, you know, how you started with the Wilder Wednesdays, because that's really sort of the foundational building blocks of what's going on, certainly at this community rec center. And then it's expanding, and you know, you've been working on, as a group, you know, your goals and objectives that eventually that you're going to be presenting, as I understand it, to the St. Paul City Council to have them take action. Right?
Right.
Yeah, that's right. You know me, I'm all for taking action. So go ahead, Elfreda.
Yes. Well, again, I said we're Family Values for Life, and on the east side of St. Paul. And the reason back in May of last year, 2010, we had a town hall meeting, and in this town hall meeting, we brought a lot of the community stakeholders to this meeting. Our representatives, state representatives, and different ones came to this meeting, and and then also we connected with the University of St. Thomas, which helps to facilitate the meeting, and with that. We found in looking at the disparities, it came up going around the tables that the first week that school is out, there's no lunch programming, there's no programming that the kids can go to. So right away, being that was an immediate interest, we developed a Feed My Kids lunch program. And with that, we fed 379 kids and families throughout that week last year, and then we repeated again this year.
And that's then, just in that neighborhood,
that's
correct?
Just in that neighborhood.
And I think that that's an important thing for our viewers to realize, is that when you're talking about that many children,
yes,
that's just in that neighborhood. We're not talking about St. Paul. We're not talking about some other little city someplace. We're talking about in that neighborhood. That's what the need is. And it brings, and we're going to talk more too about this, about that need to address having more hours at the community rec center, and the need for programming, because there's a lot of kids who live in that neighborhood. And what struck me when you were talking about this story off the air is that there are kids all the way from the ages of 4 to 19.
Yes.
And one of your questions was, you know, what are kids 4 years old running around, you know,
that time of evening
without something to do?
Yes.
Well, you know, but that's what you're addressing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then out of that, the Feed Our Kids lunch program, out of that we developed the Wilder Wednesdays, and which we've now we've had that program now for a whole year, and where every Wednesday we provide meals for the kids on the east side of St. Paul at the Wilder Rec Center. And we collaborate with different organizations, Contender for the Faith Church, along with other organizations. And we feed the kids every week. And so now what we're trying to do is develop programming. It took I guess probably about 6 months before we really could build that relationship with the kids, where they could trust us and sit down and actually allow us to sit with them and have meals. When we first began that, the kids would run back upstairs to the gym, but now they're coming down, they're down at the table, and they're sitting a family style, and we're able to sit down and talk with them and ask them how was their day, and also to begin to ask them, you know, what's going on in school and some of the other things. And some of them take us off to the side and begin to share other things with us. And so we build that relationship with them by coming on a regular basis.
Yes. And then Brittany, I know that, of course, you also play a role in this, because you always encourage them to bring their homework and try to help them with some tutoring and with some reading. And so maybe share with our viewers a little bit about how that interacts with this whole idea about, you know, getting them to come with the food, and then getting their trust, and then helping them with homework.
Yes, we want the kids to bring their homework, so that I want to help them. I know when I was in school, there's a lot of other students that needed help, and it's easier, I feel like, to go to someone that you look like than a teacher. It's harder, and plus it's one teacher. I'm here offering help outside of school, and I feel like they should take advantage of it. And not only that, I play basketball with the kids, and there's other interactions too. It's good.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that at one of the most recent meetings that you folks had representatives from the St. Paul Parks and Recreation there and talked about the need and the idea of having a computer kiosk of sorts there at the community rec center so that the children had access to that they could use for their homework as well, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then I also purchased some school supplies. I'm ready. I'm willing to help any age. I remember from, addition, of course, to reading and algebra, and I'm all arms.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And now, Sienna, when we're looking at this, what these folks are doing in their community, I mean, have you seen other groups do this same kind of getting together, rolling up their sleeves and saying, yeah, we're going to find solutions for our own neighborhood?
I think that I'm sitting next to a fine example of that. And Jennifer,
what a softball question, huh?
Yes, it is.
Jennifer and Joe and Tom Russ and several others are very, very active at the Duluth and Case Recreation Center. So I know that there is interest in the community. I know that there is commitment, and I know that there is passion. And here's a living example.
Yeah, and Jennifer, you at the beginning of the show, you mentioned that part of your idea and vision is for a more broader vision, not just for this particular community rec center, but to say, you know what, this is what we've done at this one, and this is what we've done at the other one. Now, let's take that template for community-based youth engagement and solutions and bring it to the other ones. And I think one of the things that really struck me when I was going to some of the meetings is that you folks really wanted to have more equity in the amount of time that the community rec centers are open in relation to the need of the community that they serve. And maybe you could talk a little more about that.
Oh, yes. It's astonishing how few hours these rec centers are open. Wilder Rec Center in particular is open a grand total of 8 hours per week, not per day, but per week. And this is for a community that has a high density of children.
Yeah.
That means that these the facilities are just not there for children to have any form of recreation outside of school or wandering around getting themselves into trouble. This is also true of many of the other small rec centers where the hours are very limited. I believe at Duluth and Case it's under 30 hours a week. I'm not that familiar with all of the other rec centers, but in contrast to some of the other rec centers like Highland, which is open, I believe, close to 70 hours a week. That's a huge disparity.
Right, exactly. And I know that you did bring along with you a little map there, and I'm going to, I'm not sure if our citizens will be able to see it here.
Yeah, it has
or
an
not.
overlay
Yeah.
on the
Yeah, we'll see. Well, I'll try to see if I can kind of bring it up, and I don't know if we'll be able to really see it there, but there is data with regard to exactly this issue, and looking at the communities that are served by the community rec centers and the number of hours that they're open.
If you look at that map, you'll see the large circles, and that refers to this is taken from St. Paul schools, their data. That refers to the density of children in a given area. So the bigger the circle, the higher the density of school-age children. The smaller the circles, the smaller the density of school-age children. And there seems to be in St. Paul an inverse relationship between the number of hours that the rec centers are open and the number of children there are that need to have a place to go.
And I think that there certainly is documentation that can certainly correlate that if you keep youth engaged and they've got things to do and they have other things to well, I guess that are constructive ways to keep them engaged, that there's a decrease in crime. And who would like to talk a little bit more about that? Oh,
I know that Tom Russ of our group has done a lot of investigation around that fact, that if children, if youth are engaged in 3 to 5 activities outside of school, they are less likely to engage in criminal activity and are more likely to go on to college, to secondary education. And those numbers, you know, those are numbers, the data doesn't lie. You know, it's not, pulled out of the sky.
That's right. And one of the discussion points that came out of a recent meeting is much of many of the reasons why sometimes children, youth are attracted to gangs, for instance, is because they have a sense of belonging.
Right.
They have a sense of responsibility. They have a sense of empowerment. And as ill-guided as it is, it still produces those feelings. And so what you're trying to do is have other opportunities for more positive leadership roles, more positive engagement, more positive feeling of belonging and having an opportunity of having a position of some kind. And we talked about, you know, having those, the older youth perhaps helping to mentor and tutor the younger kids, and that's a great way of being able to use this program as a positive outlet for those needs, emotional needs. So now I understand, folks, we have a caller on the line. So should we invite our caller to the table?
Definitely.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so caller, thank you for waiting. Questions or comments for us this evening?
Well, I have both.
Okay.
First of all, I just think this is a wonderful, wonderful program, and of course, naturally, we would need more of these kinds of programs. So I'm hoping that these ladies can be involved in trying to get them set up in other neighborhoods. But recruiting the older children for mentoring some of the children that come to this area, I wonder, is it possible that they would get some kind of school credit? And then one of the other things is, of course, having a safe place to be and the trust built up. What happens if, when you are talking with these children, you find that there's a need for protective services? Are they mandated reporters? Or how do they do that without losing the trust of the children and their parents? I'll hang up and listen to whoever can answer.
Well, thank you very much for those questions. Those are great topics for discussion here. The caller talked about, of course, the idea about how to, again, to take this and to be able to use this model and use it in other neighborhoods. And that always is, I think, sort of the challenge is when you're doing you have a grassroots effort, which this, I think, truly is grassroots, that then how do you get those roots, so to speak, to grow more and to be able to get people in other neighborhoods as excited about these kinds of efforts as you are about the one in your own neighborhood?
Well, I think one is that the consistency is the main thing, because again, building those relationships with the kids has been just huge. It took some time, but that being consistent each week that we came, and the same time, the same station, everything happening, they could expect the meals, everything was the same, and that, I think, built that trust, and I think that leaves opportunity for us establishing a model that at some point that we can be able to take to another neighborhood or even to another center.
Right, and you bring up a good point in that by being consistent and always being there, and not asking really anything of them other than to come and be part of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
That it's not just another broken promise. And I think that that oftentimes is what happens to a lot of youth and even adults out there, is that they, somebody promises something and then it's just another broken promise. They become disillusioned, and after a while they say, well, what the heck, why should I even believe you anyway? Why should I be involved? Why should I be engaged? Who cares? So, I think that's a good point that you make, that consistency is important.
Well, and then, too, one of the things that we noticed that when we first started with the program, the kids were, they would grab their food and run back up to the gym. And now they're coming downstairs, they were staying downstairs, and they were enjoying eating and having relationship built and just all those things. And whatever we, the relationship that we were establishing, it just came so real and so authentic.
Right, and more relaxed, I would
More
bet.
relaxed, oh yes, because you could sit down with the kids and they didn't run from you.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And, and then the caller brought up this issue of, let's say a child or a youth says and tells you something about something going on at home that is something that, is maybe a dangerous situation or some other kind of neglectful situation. How do you handle that?
Well, we do have a young lady that's on board. She's a law professor at the University of St. Thomas, and so she knows how to handle all of those things. She dealt with a young child that there was no one at home. And so this child was at the center, and he was about 7 or 8 years old. And right away, they were going to take him down to JDC. And so she said, no, we'll work at this thing. And so she knew exactly what to do. And so that kept this child, because it was a community child. It was just a miscommunication. So she went the extra mile to find out, okay, this child lives right in this community. What can we do? And so it wasn't a risk factor, but it was after hours.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. You don't want to, okay, we've closed up everything. It's time to go home. And there's a couple of kids still hanging around, and you're wondering, are they going to get home? Where did they go? What happens? I could see that would be a very unsettling feeling to walk away and wonder, okay, now what?
But she went to the family's home. The child said where he lived. She went to the home and she waited outside until those parents came home. And it was we found out it was a miscommunication.
Well.
One was thinking the child was to be picked up, and one thought that they already had the child with them. And so, but she went the extra mile and saw that child was safe, and then the child even went to sleep in the back of the car.
Oh. So. Now, I understand we have another caller on the line, so let's invite our caller to the table and see what they got on their mind. Caller, thank you for calling. Questions or comments for us this evening?
Thank you, Mayor Longrie. I always enjoyed this show each week. You do a wonderful job. Hey, I think the ladies are going in the right direction, because, it's good to see that they really stepped to the plate, because all I see on the east side is the failure of professional politicians. And like you said, the broken promises and the broken hope. And, you ask them about them, and they just give you some jimmy, phony answer, and then they run away from you. And I'm thinking of people like, even like Dan Bostrom, the council member over there, who will crow about his family's public service background and how he's part of a police family. And yet in his own ward, I see the highest crime rate in St. Paul. I see all kinds of foreclosed homes. Betty McCullum will tell you how much she cares about the east side of St. Paul. But has she done anything about it? She just runs away, too, and she doesn't care about it. It's disappointing to see that all these people and all their money can't even keep community centers in this highly dense kids population open, much less have any added benefits like having like computers in them. And now I hear the mayor saying,
and so caller there, I take it then, and caller, thank you then, and I understand, take it from your comments that you certainly support then that we have community-based solutions. Yeah, okay, must have lost the caller. But anyway, but the caller brought up some good points in that, you know, I guess we can't just all sit around waiting for the politicians to help us.
That's right.
I mean, I think that's sort of the underlying message there, and I think it's pretty clear that you folks, you know, you did some surveys, you found out what the community needs are, and then you're looking at how to change the paradigm that is facing this neighborhood. And I think that's wonderful. One of the other, at one of the meetings that was talking about the crime, at one of the last meetings, somebody had brought to the meeting just sort of a snapshot of the 3 miles around a particular address in the neighborhood of the crimes that had occurred over just a short period of time. And just to share this with the viewers, I mean, it was anything from robbery, vandalism. The majority of the items were theft, but there was also burglary, assault, and these are the kinds of things that, you know, as you mentioned, I think early in the program, that one of the things you found out from the survey is that people felt afraid to come out of their home, to be able to even go outside. And, you know, I think trying to build back that sense of community is really a very important aspect of this as well, because, yes, you want to engage youth, but you want to build community for everybody. Jennifer, I can tell you got something on your mind you want to say.
In reference to that map that you have there in hand, the gist of that was that as additional programming has been taking place at Duluth and Case Rec Center, there seems to be an island around that rec center where crime is vastly diminished. The more programming, the less crime. And if we can replicate that, rec center after rec center, I think it would have a huge effect.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, looking at the work that you folks have done to draft basically a game plan, so to speak, that you want to present to the St. Paul City Council to get their support so that they have the buy-in and say, yeah, we're all behind you, and you know, maybe we'll help promote it a little bit in some of our publications. Wouldn't that be nice? Yes. and plus expand those hours, which of course they have the control the purse strings over. So wouldn't that be nice? But here's in you know, kind of gives you sort of a snapshot of what the mission is to expand the hours of operation of the Wilder Recreation Center to provide life skills programming and free evening meals to the youth through family and community involvement. And I think that really sums up exactly what we've been talking about and does tell people what is the point. Yes, exactly. Now, when you folks, of course, as I mentioned, have been working very diligently on this you know, mission statement and the you know, the outline of your what you want to work on. And I think it's important to share with our viewers some of this, because it really kind of helps to flesh out. It's more than just having an evening meal. It's more than just tutoring. There's this idea about life skills, and that's part of what's in the mission statement. And so certainly one of the most important programming needs that is being looked at, which is top of the list, is tutoring. And that's talking about homework help, and also, though, how to go about applying for college, for scholarships, for jobs. Now, isn't that a great life skill to have? How do you apply for a job? How do you prepare for an interview? And I bet you kids really, especially those who are 16 and older, really appreciate that. Would anybody like to talk about that? About preparing them with life skills for jobs or whatever?
I think that the life skills training goes into the whole concept of leadership, building leadership, because we're all getting old, and we need to find our tomorrow's leaders, and we need to do it today. And so with all of the programming, we are focused on on preparing these kids to be leaders tomorrow in this community. And so
Right.
life skills is essential that way to leadership development and civic engagement and weaving our community together so that we can be a cohesive voice.
And I think also, too, going to that point of being able to one day raise and have their own families,
Absolutely.
which is kind of what your organization is focused on, too, is about working with families.
Working with the entire family, building that relationship with the kids, and to reach the family. This summer we had a back-to-school event, and the focus was to bring families together to get school supplies, haircuts, and all the necessary things that it took for them to get their kids in school. And then to be able to build, after building those relationships, to be able to follow that family throughout the school year to help them or insist or empower them to whether they're going to parent-teacher conference or they're going to whatever the events that they need to attend in the school to make their child have a successful school year. We want to be a part of that. We want to have a checklist of things so that we're empowering them and letting them know that we're on their side and we're there to answer questions, have parent support groups, whatever it is that they need to help them or assist them or walk alongside of them to have a positive school year.
Right, and one of the program ideas that was being tossed around, and this is where Jennifer can certainly, I know as a master gardener, could talk more about this, but talking about how using gardening and being able to garden in a very small area, that it's not just something for the kids, it's something for the parents too. There's something that the family can actually do together and work on as a team, but because it is in an urban setting, obviously we don't have the back 40, and so we have to think about how do we even do gardening in the urban setting. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Oh, yes. I've done different presentations of variations on the theme of gardening in small spaces. And it's astonishing how much food can be raised in a small space. A lot of people, though, are afraid to start because, oh, what if it dies? What if the weeds take over? And there's a lot of what if, what if, what if. And by having a discussion, then all those fears can be just sort of calmed down a bit and give people the freedom to try.
Yes.
Freedom to try. But then following up, okay, it's one thing to have the garden. The next thing is you have the food. What do you do with the food? And I've been enlisting the food and nutrition folks in the extension service and getting them involved in doing programming at the rec centers. And for one of the topics being how to eat well on a small budget. And aim this at the teenagers as well as the adults. The adults, you know, we know that the adults have to deal with food. A surprising number of teenagers are also dealing with food preparation for their younger siblings as well as themselves. A lot of these parents are working 2 jobs. They simply don't have the time or energy to do a lot of food preparation or even to make good food choices. These teenagers, though, are of an age where they can make good choices, and they're smart people.
Yes.
They can do a good job.
And you know, it really kind of brings us around indirectly to another issue that you hear about a lot in the news, which is obesity in our youth today. And by actually including this whole programming to talk about gardening, and then from there you've got your food to make healthy choices, and how to be able to eat healthy and wisely on an economical budget, you're addressing some of the root problems, I believe, that I believe are at the basis of the childhood obesity, because people are looking for something quick, something fast, something cheap, and unfortunately many of those fast food things that are quick, fast, and cheap are the worst things for you. And you know, what are the alternatives to that? And it's really great that then you're giving those life skills and helping these youth to have that, because see, then they can feel good about helping their family too, especially if they're in that role where they have to be making those meals. That's great.
I think there's a lot of teens that are out there making suppers.
Right.
Well, I know how it was when I was that age.
Me too.
You know, my mom, you know, was a single mom. My dad had passed away, and she had to work. I had a little brother. My older brothers were gone, and my mom would say, "Okay, here are 3 recipes." And I know there's enough ingredients in the house for any one of these recipes. So by the time I get home, have one of them cooked. So there you go. That was my cooking lesson, okay? Here you go. You got 3 recipes to pick from. Pick one, cook it, don't burn down the house. Well, that was my instructions. So I can appreciate that for sure, exactly. Now looking at another one of the program ideas that's in the syllabus here, talking about, well, I mean, bread making. I find that very fascinating, and there was some discussion about this at the meeting, of course, that, well, we're going to have to limit the size of that group because a lot of flour is flying around the room. So, and there is like one adult, though, for each youth, correct?
That's the best way to work it, yes.
Yes. And see, and there again, that's a really great model of having the youth learning to how to relate to an adult figure and be able to have communication with them. These are all the kinds of things that if you're in the workplace, you have to be able to talk to people of different races, different ages, different whatever, and figure out how not to spill the flour.
Well, ideally, you get a teen to team with a young child.
Ah, yes, there you go. That would be good too. Let's see, and then of course things like woodworking. I mean, that's important. And then, but I like the reading corner led by community members, because this is an opportunity from anybody within the community, even if they don't have children there, or that they don't have children at home, or maybe they never had children, who knows. But they can come in and they can read with the children. Now tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, readers are leaders. Need we say more? Readers are leaders, and we want to expose the children to every opportunity possible to read, to learn to love to read. And they do love to read. They don't always have the opportunity to do so. So one of our members, Jeannie Pearson, she worked her magic, and she procured several books.
Several stacks of books
for the reading corner. And we are working with Parks and Recreation to procure lower bookshelves so that we don't have that tipping factor.
Right.
And ultimately, we want to have some nice, comfy furniture, and it's a quiet place where anyone can come and take off with their imagination.
Yeah, exactly. And I know one of the real immediate goals is to try to have the Wilder Rec Center open for more hours, because as you mentioned, Jennifer, it's only open for 8 for the whole week right now. And so there was been some talk about trying to get it to at least be open for like what, Friday evenings or something like that. And again, that seems to just make just good common sense, because the kids are out of school, you know, they're looking for something to do Friday. What the heck, you know, keep them off the streets. So now, oh, and another little program idea that kind of caught my attention, and I think it's good for not just boys but girls too, and that's small engines, how they work, to how to break them down, how to maintain them, how to care for a lawnmower. These are just simple types of things that once you leave your home, you need to know. And maybe while you're at home, maybe you need to help somebody with this. I don't know. I think it's just really great. Now we have about 15 minutes left of our program, and I know that there's many other things that we have been talking about at the various meetings and stuff. So I want to make sure that we get everything in that you folks want to talk about with regard to your efforts and what you're doing. So go ahead and maybe Sienna, you can jump in there and talk a little bit from your perspective where you see this is going in the future.
Well, in the immediate realm, I think that we want to immediately wrap concrete youth programming around Wilder Wednesday. That's every Wednesday from 6 to 8. And we want to grow that to the other days in the week. And then we want to leverage that to get support from Parks and Recreation to increase the hours of the Recreation Center. And we want to take that same model and we want to replicate it to the Margaret Recreation Center, to the Duluth and Case already has it at their Recreation Center, to the Arlington Recreation Center. So these are the recreation centers that serve the different neighborhoods of the East Metro area, and all of them serve a high-density youth population.
Exactly. Now, and Brittany, I know that at one of the meetings you had mentioned that you were certainly open for other folks to join you in helping to tutor kids for homework. You got some thoughts on that maybe? Maybe you want to give a pitch to our viewers out here, huh?
Yes, just like to answer the question of the first caller, college credits or any credits for school for the programs right now, it's strictly volunteer right now, and it's just the passion for the youth. And if you can help, that's great. I think the youth should go to college. It's a great experience as a student. You're exposed to different cultures, different classes, different everything, backgrounds, and it's just a great experience, and you learn way more than what's in the text. Like, it's just so awesome. I think everybody should go to college.
Yeah.
Although I know it's not meant for everybody.
Right. But there's other opportunities too. It may not just be college. It could be vocational or other kinds of certificate programs. But your point is really well taken, is that, you know, continual exposure to additional educational experiences, it just helps and enhances everybody's quality of life. And you never know, that next great invention could be from one of the kids from the East Side. And wouldn't that be wonderful, huh?
That'd be awesome.
That's right. Alfreda, now if folks out there who are watching this program wants to contact somebody about getting involved in what you folks are doing, how do they get a hold of you guys?
Well, they could call Family Values for Life. They could reach us at 612-388-7886. That is my cell. The office number is 651-774-0344.
Okay.
That would be a great way of getting in touch with us. We will, you know, get back to you, and we could certainly use the support of community representatives to come and help us with the kids and the programs.
That's great. And I know for our viewers out there, I didn't give them a heads up that they should have that pen and paper ready. So in about a couple minutes after they've run around to go get their pen and paper, we'll have you give those numbers again so that they can write them down.
Absolutely.
So that's
Absolutely.
good. And then Jennifer, of course, you've been involved with working with the Case and Duluth Community Rec Center and what's going on there, and what's going on at the Walker Center. From your perspective, how do you see any differences between what was going on at the one rec center and what's going on here, and how that impacts creating a model that can be moved from neighborhood to neighborhood?
I think each neighborhood has its own unique character, and you have to adjust your approach to fit that neighborhood.
Right.
But looking at the east side as a whole, though, we have almost like 4 different populations. There's the Hispanic, African American, Hmong, and white. And they're like intersecting circles. And a couple weeks ago, I went to the Hmong Resource Fair and talked to all sorts of people at that fair about the interest in all these different Hmong organizations in what that could be done with at the rec centers.
Yes, yes.
And I found there was a lot of interest. And that's something I'm following up on to try to draw in that group. The other group that's not represented here today are the Hispanic folks. We need to do the same with them, draw them in. But again, on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis, people don't like to travel big distances. If they've got a rec center in their neighborhood, they may know it's there, and they may not really be sure it's really, if they're welcome to go there. We have to let them know that they're welcome. A lot of people are just feel, oh, well, it's for those people over there, my neighbors, but I don't know if there's anything there for me.
Right.
So we have to let these folks know that, yes,
and see,
there's something there for me.
That's right, and you have really hit upon something that I think is crucial, not just for St. Paul, but actually all the communities served by this program, is that people like to stay within their own neighborhood when they go to their parks, when they go to various places to get out of their house. They're not going to drive halfway across town to get to the regional park necessarily. They want to be close to home.
A lot of these folks do not have cars.
That's right.
A lot of these folks do not have cars. They do not have transportation to just drive somewhere.
Right, and that really shows the importance of keeping our local parks in place and our local community rec centers in place, because they serve a neighborhood and a community neighborhood. That is, I think that's a real critical point. That's certainly, hopefully, all the elected officials out there who are watching this program, that they will take that to heart, because that is something I hear over and over from citizens no matter where I go. The other thing is, and we have not too much time left, but another issue that came up during some of our meetings is the need to have this programming be free and no charge, because the community it serves are folks who, if there was a fee, could not afford it, that they would not be able to participate, that they would be excluded, and that so many of the community rec center programs throughout the metro area are moving towards a pay-to-play model, and that actually, in this instance, would be a failure. It would not work, and so it's really critical that people realize that there's certainly programming all over the place, but it's all pay-to-play, and that just doesn't necessarily work in every community. Now, with also, okay, tell them the contact information, and I bet you might have an email address, too.
I do have an email address.
Very good.
Again, the name is Family Values for Life. It can be reached at 612-388-7886. The office number is 651-774-0344. The website is familyvaluesforlife.org, and all one word. And also, the email address is familyvaluesforlife@gmail.com. That again is familyvaluesforlife, all one word, @gmail.com.
Excellent. Okay, and of course, if all else fails, well, they know what my name is, and you can find me on Facebook. So there you go. How easy is that? And then I'll make sure you get hooked up with them. So anyway, but of course now, do you have any meetings set with the City Council yet at this point?
Not at the present
Not
moment.
not yet, but soon.
Right. We just met with Parks and Recreation last week, and our next intention is to get the city council people involved.
And I was at that meeting, and I heard them clearly say that they really were very supportive of your efforts, of what you are doing here, and that, you know, and that if there was anything they could do to help you with promoting your programming, that they were behind you. I thought that that was very positive. I think we need a little bit more movement and getting more hours open at that community rec center, but at least the door's open, and that's a good first place to start, is with an open door.
Right.
So I think that that's a positive thing. Any last wrap-up thoughts before we conclude our program? Who would like to take it away?
Well, I'd just like to say, you know, first of all, thank our viewers for listening in to our comments and thoughts on the East Sides. And just to say that we're preparing for our pre-Thanksgiving meal for families on the East Side at the Wilder Rec Center on November 16th. So we're looking for donations to help us with that. And again, we're just, our goal is to make Wilder Rec Center a safe place for families to come. Not only just the kids, but families, because as we were, and I'm sure as Sienna has said, the door knocking, people are afraid to come up there, but along with the church across the street, Contender for the Faith Church, and others, we've been really trying to make this a very safe place for families to come.
And again,
so more activities, it seems to do that.
That's exactly right, in that they become more comfortable with the idea that, you know, it's got something going on over there that's safe, that is welcoming. Again, I think that's come up here too this evening, about the need for a welcoming environment and a welcoming group of people that say, you know what, we don't care who you are. Come on in.
Yes.
We want you to be with us.
Absolutely.
You know, we're going to have fun. So I think that's very important, and that it is about building community, engaging the youth, but building the community as well.
Building the community.
Any other last thoughts from any of the rest of you this evening before we sign off and say toodaloo?
Thank you. Thank you for having us
Thank
on
you
your
for
program.
having us,
And thank you to the viewers for watching.
Yeah, well, excellent. Well, you know what we'll have to do is that we'll have to have you folks back on, maybe like in a year or so, and do a one-year anniversary kind of a wrap-up program and talk about all the successes that you've had, because I know that you're going to build upon what you've been doing, that you've got the support of the community, and it looks like you got an open door to City Hall. So, excellent, good move, and good luck to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And to our viewers out there, I want to thank you for tuning in to our program this evening. I hope you've enjoyed it. Now stay tuned next week where we'll have a new topic, a new show, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
That was fun.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Cave and I'm running for Maplewood City Council. This November 8th, I'm asking for your vote. If you don't want government involvement with your trash collection, and you think you can pick your own trash collector, vote for me. I'm against government organized trash collecting. I know Maplewood City Council wants to put it through. I think you're smart enough to make your own choices. You've chosen which trash collectors work for you, and you can negotiate your own prices. If you're protecting parks and open spaces, then I'm the candidate for you. We've just sold one of our parks, and I've been an advocate against selling parks and open spaces for the last 5 years. I'm very disappointed that they've shut down the fire station number 3 on the west end and also number 4 on the south end. The safety of our citizens is #1 priority for me. I'll encourage visitor presentations to be brought back to the beginning of the meeting, because you are the reason we're up here. The citizens are who voted for the council members, and they need to listen to them. Don't forget, vote November 8th. Rebecca Cave, Maplewood City Council. Thank you.